Hello, and welcome to the Night Sky Reader. I'm here with a story to help you relax, meditate, or gently drift to sleep. Tonight, Mulberry Bark Papermaking by Lamplight, a handmade paper sleep story. Settle in, close your eyes if you'd like, and let's begin. In this quiet room, Mulberry Bark Papermaking begins under a single lamp. The oil flame is small and steady, no larger than a thumb, yet it gives enough light for the whole night to gather around it. On the bench below, strips of bark lie dark with soaking water, brown-gray on the outside, ridged and a little rough, their surfaces still carrying the weathered look of branch and field. When the paper maker lifts one length and bends it between wet fingers, the bark resists at first, then it softens. Along a broken edge, the inner fiber shows itself, pale and fine, almost silver in the amber light, as if the bark has been keeping another color inside it all along. Water beads on the maker's knuckles. A shallow basin stands nearby, its surface barely moving except where another strip is lowered into it. The room smells of lamp oil, damp wood, and clean cold water with the faint green scent that rises from fresh bark once it is soaked long enough to wake. The floorboards are dark from use. A scraping board waits to one side. Beyond it, the hearth keeps a low heat under a pot that is not yet boiling, only thinking about it. Nothing in the room is hurried, though the hands at first still carry a trace of the day, a wish to set the sequence moving, to get from bark to fiber, from fiber to handmade paper, before the lamp burns too low. The bark does not answer to that desire. It yields only by degrees. The maker knows this. Still, the first touch carries its own quiet negotiation between intention and material. One strip after another is lifted from the basin and tested. The outer skin is slick now, less stubborn than before, but not loose. The inner bark beneath it has a different feeling, long fibers held together with a strength that is not hardness exactly, but structure, a grain that asks to be followed. The papermaker turns each piece in the light, reading thickness, softness, and the places where scraping will need to be firm or careful. The pale side catches the lamp. The darker side drinks it. Soon the soaked bark is carried to the board. The scraping board is smooth from years of water and knives. It shines where it has been worn by wrists, by bark pressed flat, by rinse water running down its length and darkening the wood before dripping to the floor. One strip is spread open on it. The papermaker braces it with one hand and takes up the knife with the other, not like a blade meant to cut, but like a tool meant to persuade. The edge is set low. It pushes, not slashes. The first pass removes only a little. A soft scraping sound rises, dry and wet at once. Fragments of dark skin curl away from the knife in thin ribbons. Clear water is poured over the strip. It carries the flecks down the board and into a bucket below, where they float briefly before sinking. Again the knife moves. Pressure matters here, too hard, and the long fibers beneath are bruised, shortened, lifted where they should remain whole. Too light, and the stubborn outer layer stays behind, clinging in stains that will travel forward into every later step. The papermaker begins with a hand slightly too eager for efficiency, each stroke a touch more forceful than the bark really needs. The wood answers through the blade. So does the fiber. A faint roughening appears where the knife has pressed instead of skimmed. The next stroke changes. Slower, lower. The hand gives up some of its insistence and lets the surface guide it. The sound softens. Dark skin leaves in wider, cleaner sweeps, and the white bark beneath comes forward intact, creamy and cool, with a faint satin gleam while it is wet. This is the first real clearing. The room still holds bark, water, bench, lamp, but now there is also this, pale strips gathering in a neat coil, no longer looking like branch covering, not yet looking like paper, something between the two. They are rinsed again and again. The runoff grows cleaner. Tiny stubborn patches are lifted with the corner of the knife. A thumb runs along the length to feel whether any roughness remains. When one strip is finished, it is set aside. Another replaces it. The work repeats, and the repetition smooths the maker too. The pot on the hearth receives the cleaned strips one by one. Water already warmed there takes them in with a quiet folding motion. A mild alkali has been dissolved into it, enough to help loosen what still binds the fibers together, enough to soften without scouring. Steam rises more visibly now, whitening and thinning as it drifts toward the lamp halo. The papermaker stirs the pot with a wooden paddle, then steps back. Heat can assist but cannot be made to hurry the bark into goodness. No rolling boil, no battering of fiber against metal and itself, only a steady, patient softening. From time to time the lid lifts. Warmth breathes out and warms the wrists, the face, the front of the cotton sleeve. Inside, the bark is changing in ways that only appear slowly. Edges that held a firm line begin to relax. The color grows lighter, moving toward an even clean white. When the paddle stirs, the strips no longer move as stiff lengths. They curve and separate in the water, their structure opening without yet dissolving. The room is warmer near the hearth and cool again by the basin. Each crossing between them reminds the hands where they are. Warm steam loosens them. Cold rinse water returns a keenness to the fingertips. The lamp burns with an occasional small tremor when air shifts around it, then steadies itself again. On the walls, shadows of the pot handle and the hanging tools move softly and return. This part of mulberry bark papermaking asks for a wider kind of attention. Nothing dramatic announces progress. Readiness gathers. It arrives in softened resistance, in the way a strip lifted from the pot droops over the spoon instead of holding itself straight, in the way the stubbornness that survived soaking and scraping finally loses the last of its grip. The papermaker tests one strip between finger and thumb, squeezing gently. The fibers separate into a soft fringe at the edge. The maker is no longer leaning toward the next step. The next step will come when the bark has opened enough to invite it. When at last the cooked strips are ready, they are lifted and carried into fresh water. The change is immediate. After the warmth of the alkali bath, the rinse is cool and lucid, a return to clarity. Steam gives way to droplets. White bark floats for a moment, then sinks and sways under the water as the papermaker washes it through both hands. Now the work grows smaller and more exact. At the sorting table, beside the lamp, the softened bark is opened and spread. Every flaw must be seen. Tiny bits of dark skin that escaped the knife. Small knots where the fiber held thicker. Brown specks no larger than seeds. They are picked away one by one. Fingernails do some of the work. So does the point of a small tool. Mostly it is the eyes, adjusting to slight differences in whiteness, learning to notice what should not remain. The lamp is invaluable here. Its warm light slides over the wet fibers and reveals specks as interruptions in an otherwise even pale field. The papermaker bends close. A strip is turned. Another is lifted against the glow and laid back down. A dark mark hardly visible in the basin becomes obvious on the table. It is removed. Another follows. The clean bark grows cleaner. It is quiet enough to hear each small wet sound, the placing of a strip onto wood, the touch of fingertips separating fibers, water dripping from the table edge into a crock below. Outside, the night remains outside. Nothing enters. The whole world of concern narrows to the width of a strip of Kozo and the patience required to leave it pure. Any flaw here will become visible later, suspended in the finished sheet like a thought that was never cleared away. The care appears in posture instead. The shoulders have lowered. The jaw is loose. The earlier wish to move the work along has thinned out and disappeared. There is only the next speck, the next clean length of fiber placed in a growing white heap. When enough has been cleaned, the bark is gathered and taken to the beating block. The block stands low and heavy. Its grain is raised in places from years of damp use. Onto it the papermaker lays the rinsed Kozo, now fully white, pliant, almost luminous under the lamp. A wooden mallet lifts and falls. The first blows are distinct, dense with the remaining body of the bark. Damp thuds echo gently in the room. The fibers flatten, spread, and begin to fray apart. The mallet rises and falls again and again, with enough force to open the lengths into softer strands, not so much that the fibers are chopped short. Underworked bark keeps too much of itself, floating in strings and knots, unwilling to mingle. Overworked pulp loses length and strength. Strength lives in the soft interlocking of opened fibers that still remember how to hold on to one another. The papermaker feels the change through rebound. The mallet returns differently from softened fiber than from whole bark. The sound dulls. The mass beneath it loosens into something more cloud-like, less strip than tuft. The wrists have settled into the rhythm of it, steady without effort. From time to time the maker lifts a pinch of beaten fiber and draws it apart in wet fingers. It separates finely now. No hard spine remains. It looks modest on the block, only a mound of pale damp fiber, but every previous stage has been leading toward this open softness. The vat waits on its bench, filled with water that reflects the lamp in a long shaking oval. The beaten pulp is lowered into it by handfuls. It enters reluctantly at first, floating in clumps before sinking. The papermaker reaches in and stirs, arms moving slowly through the cool depth, drawing water and fiber together. A little plant mucilage is added, clear and slippery, enough to give the water a faint body so the fibers will linger in suspension instead of dropping at once. The vat water grows silkier to the hand, less eager to release what it holds. The stirring continues. Clumps are broken, strands drift apart, white clouds bloom and disappear beneath the surface. Gradually the vat becomes uniform, neither clear nor opaque, but softly inhabited, full of fine pale matter waiting for form. When the paddle lifts out, the water settles without becoming still. It carries a slow interior movement now, an even suspension. The papermaker watches the vat for a moment longer than necessary. Earlier in the night, that pause would have been shorter. Now it is exactly long enough. The bamboo screen and its frame are brought forward. Fine slats run across the screen with a precision that looks delicate and is. The frame fits around it cleanly, making a shallow mold. In the lamplight, the bamboo appears golden where dry and darker where moisture has reached it. The papermaker wets the screen before the first pull, letting the water coat it evenly. Then the frame lowers into the vat. The motion is practiced but not automatic. The screen enters at an angle and is drawn level beneath the surface. Water closes over bamboo. Fiber swirls. With a smooth lift, the frame rises, bringing water and pulp up with it, a shining weight held in both hands. For an instant, nothing can be judged. Everything is water, draining, moving. Then the sheet begins to appear. It is only a skin, a thin, trembling layer spread across the screen, yet it is the first moment the whole night becomes visible. The papermaker rocks the frame gently forward and back, side to side, quick enough to settle the fibers into an even web, slow enough not to wash them into ridges. The suspended pulp responds. Lines soften, thin patches fill. Water streams from the edges in silver threads and patters back into the vat. Still, the first lift is not perfect. One corner holds slightly heavier than the rest. The maker sees it at once, not with alarm, only with recognition. The vat has more to offer. The frame is lowered again. The sheet dissolves back into the white water without protest, returning to possibility. The second lift is quieter. The hands no longer attempt to command the fiber. They accompany it. The frame enters, fills, rises. The rocking is smaller, more fluent, almost invisible except for the way the new sheet evens itself beneath that care. Under the lamp, the pulp on the bamboo shines pearl pale. Individual fibers cannot be counted, but their long presence can be sensed, crossing and catching, making strength from lightness. Drainage continues. The trembling lessens. This time the sheet holds evenly from edge to edge. Nothing in the room announces it. No sound changes except the steady drip from the mold. Yet the whole process gathers here with a quiet completeness. Scraping pressure, careful simmer, picked out specks, correct beating, patient hands, all of it exists in this one wet plane, not much thicker than a skin of cream. The papermaker turns to the couching stack. A cloth lies ready to receive the sheet. The mold is tipped, one edge meeting the surface first, then rolled so the new sheet transfers from bamboo to the waiting layer below. A soft contact, a release, a lifting of the screen away. The sheet remains behind, scarcely visible except for its sheen. Another cloth is laid over it. The process begins again. Into the vat. Lift. Rock. Drain. Couch. Each repetition calms the room further. The maker no longer thinks ahead to the stack, only to the evenness of the surface in the present lift. Some sheets come up with more water and take longer to settle. Some drain quickly and show their fibers sooner. Each one carries its own faint variation, yet together they form a rhythm truer than haste. The vat water lowers almost imperceptibly and is replenished. The suspension is stirred now and then to keep the fibers from gathering too low. The bamboo screen gleams, disappears beneath the surface, rises gleaming again. The stack of new sheets grows. Wet, pale, orderly, a small batch, enough for use, enough to justify every careful motion that led here. The lamp reflects on the uppermost sheet as on still water. When the paper maker lays the next cloth over it, the glow is covered, then revealed again on the next lift. Fragility remains present, but it is no longer a threat. It has become the condition of the work, accepted and managed. The papermaker moves inside it comfortably now, with the kind of attention that does not strain. When the final sheet has been couched, the vat is left to rest. Its surface settles. A few pale fibers still drift in the water like the last traces of cloud after weather has passed. The stack is carried to the press. Pressure here has a different purpose than the knife had at the board. Not to remove, not to force, but to persuade water out while allowing the sheets to stay aligned and whole. The press closes gradually. Wood creaks once, softly. Water begins to run, first in a few clear streams, then in a steadier trickle, falling into a tray below. The room hears it and grows still around it. After pressing, the sheets are lighter in the hand but still delicate. One by one they are separated from their interleaving layers and lifted to drying boards, smooth planks prepared for them. The papermaker lays each sheet down flat, smoothing it with the palm so it adheres evenly, no wrinkle, no trapped pocket of air. Wet sheen clings to the surface. The fibers, so recently suspended and invisible in motion, now rest in a quiet plane. The paper is not bright white in this light. It is cream, milk, faint pearl, whatever pale tone the lamp and the dampness agree upon. The lamp burns lower than before. Its oil has sunk. The flame is a little shorter, though still steady. Beyond the room, morning has not yet entered, but it has begun pressing on the dark. At the edge of the window frame there is a grayness softer than black. It does not compete with the lamp. It only waits. Boards lean in rows with fresh sheets upon them. Nearby, the pressed stack exhales the last cool scent of water and fiber. The tools have quieted. The knife is clean. The mallet rests on its block. The bamboo screen, rinsed and set aside, holds a few shining droplets between its slats. Nothing triumphant fills the room. Only completion. Bark that began the night dark, rough, and weather-marked now lies transformed into thin, usable paper, each sheet carrying the calm of repeated exact motions. The papermaker stands still for a moment, hands damp, wrists cooled again after steam and work, and looks over what has been made without reaching for praise or correction. The newest sheets continue changing as they dry. Their gloss softens toward matte. Their pale surfaces hold the last of the lamplight and offer it back gently. By morning they will be lighter still. For now they rest where they have been placed, rows of quiet rectangles, each one the night made thin enough to lift. Thank you for spending this time with the night sky, reader. May your night be peaceful. Until next time, rest well.